Do you know, I'm not, believe it or not, this is going to sound strange. I don't know that I'm a fan of, I don't know that I'm a fan of sort of intentionally teaching people, particularly young people, to think critically. Now, I taught in the secular universities for 15 years, and every time you talk to a university lecturer, what's the point of a university? Oh, to teach people to think critically, to teach people to think critically. I'm actually questioning that because I actually don't know that young people quite have the training and the wisdom to handle the task of critical thinking. And I sometimes wonder whether a better approach is to teach them how to think truly and introduce them to different ideas, but interpret them through truth. And what will naturally happen is that over time, they will learn to think critically. I don't know that critical thinking is something that I'd be directly pursuing. I'd be directly pursuing sort of thinking truthfully, and in that process, they will learn to think critically. Well, let's say you're teaching them. I don't know. I mean, let's say you're teaching them about different theories of society. Let's say you're teaching them maybe about democracy, communism, and different isms like feminism and things like that. I would not necessarily sort of give them these texts and ideas and just sort of leave it to them to decide which ones they think are the most compelling. I probably wouldn't do that. Why? Because that very process of trying to figure that out requires actually prior knowledge and judgment that they don't have. And so I'd probably be more inclined to introduce them to these isms, but again, through a Christian framework. So teach them about different ways of thinking, but actually not in a neutral way, in a way that exposes their strengths and pointing out that the only reason that's a strength is because you'll find it prior in Scripture, and pointing out their weaknesses and pointing out that the reason that's a weakness is because Scripture actually teaches against it. And also historically, when these things are put into practice, they fall apart. And over time, when you teach people like that, they will develop critical thinking. So I wouldn't actually pursue critical thinking as a goal in itself. I'd pursue truth and basically expect that over time, the capacity to think critically will emerge. And there's a sense in which that would be my approach. That would be my approach. The best immunization for everything they're going to come up against is a solid Christian worldview. So if you can be grounded in a solid Christian worldview, particularly sort of an understanding of what it is to be a human being, why what the Bible teaches is not just true, but why it works, then in actual fact, you don't need specifically to immunize them against everything. They'll be able to, generally speaking, recognize it for themselves. It's like the old saying, in the CIA, how did they train CIA agents to be able to detect counterfeit notes? Did they get them to study counterfeit notes? No, they didn't. They got them to study pristine, perfect, genuine notes. And when you know what a genuine note looks like, you can spot a counterfeit note very early and very easily. And so that is, how I would approach it. And certainly how we approach it at the Download program that I was talking to you all about earlier. And again, anyone here between the age of 18 and 25, you can be a bit younger and a little bit older you can be 17, you can be a couple of years older than 25. That's what we try to do over that course of a week. Yeah.